Hello and welcome to Radiant Station. In today's tutorial, we are going to construct our roads which we need to build in our city or town. Now what this will help us in is we can easily apply the array modifier and make road tiles and multiply them in the x or in the y axis. Now this is going to be the road tile as an example, of course, which will multiply itself and it'll turn into something like this. Now let's start modeling and of course shading our road. Fairly simple shades. We will be using black and white for the lines. This is the pavement. Of course right now we're just doing a rough or a draft sketch, as to say. Then we'll be importing in some items or objects for reference and then scaling it up. Let's bring it down. Of course this is a fairly narrow road. I think it's only one lane because it's, I believe we kept it to 3 meters, I think. That's even narrower than a lane. Let me see if it's perfectly in line. I think it is. Now what, let's just bring in, oh, it's already, because I actually brought it once, so it's saved. And this is our male mesh, which will definitely, it's just one lane. So we're gonna highlight the road and increase it to 6 meters. See that it's going to be really tight. We might increase it even further, but for now let's just make it look like road. Pavement, we will need to increase the pavement, but for now let's bring in some loop cuts. This is going to be the lane, which is 2-lane road, meaning 2 directional. If we go out of edit mode, it's gonna get out until the shading is done. So I might just duplicate those shapes and separate them so that I can even see them even outside of edit mode. I've already duplicated, extrude a little bit to avoid the weird shading that happens when 2 meshes overlap each other. Now if I go out of edit mode, I will be able to see these objects separately. Now let's scale this down. So those will be the painted lanes on the road. Maybe a little longer. I think that'll do. Now here I will apply the array modifier. First I'll have to separate it, because if it's a separate object I can apply separate modifiers to it. Now it's a separate object. I'm getting the array modifier with some offset factor. It's too far, I believe. It's too close. Yeah, I'm happy with this. So right now what we're doing is we're building in a road tile, which once completed and joined all together, we are going to apply array modifiers to the tile itself, and it's going to construct our road. Let's add in a mirror, or joined it. Let's combine. Wait a second, let's highlight this. Now both of these are separate. Now we're going to join these two so it's one object. Just going to mirror them on the other side. Took a little break there. Don't want the thinking process to lengthen the video. So we're going to use this as a multi-purpose. I'm thinking in case in the future, in case we want to build a highway where multiple lanes are required, we can use this as a buffer zone and just sketch these individual lanes rather than a continuous line, which will mean that it's a one directional highway road plate, as to say, or tile. Now let's just increase the pavement to look a little bit suitable for people to walk on. Okay. Of course, we'll be bringing in a simple cuboid. We'll make it into we'll get the dimensions of a car or a bus, and then we'll scale up the entire road model of ours, because we're going to keep things to scale here. Now we're going to duplicate. One tile is done. The other one, now we're going to make a road or a zebra crossing. This part, which will basically be the end of the roads or where the signals are going to be placed. That's separated. I'll be bringing this on either side. I think I might increase the thickness of it for now. Scale has been applied. I have to apply the scale of this as well, because that helps in the editing. Of course, we won't be doing any detailed editing on the individual lane marks. Just apply the scale of everything. Just deleted it and makes it simpler. Now we're going to duplicate this, bring it on the other side. Let's just take it all the way to the end. Slightly increase the thickness of this. It's just too thin. But for that, let's see with the array modifier. Displacement factor. Let's increase the count now. Or you know what? We'll just increase the thickness. Change the center of origin. I think that'll do. Maybe increase it in the length a little bit. The thickness is standard. I think I like this, like how it looks. We scale it up and something of this sort. Yes, that looks better. That's a zebra crossing or pedestrians crossing. Great. And now we'll be making in, let's bring in that bus that we were talking about, the cube. We're gonna bring it to, let's say, 11 meters long, 3 meters of width, and 3.5 meters of height, something of the sort. So the road seems to be fairly tight. So we're just gonna move this bus on the side, highlight all the road tiles, and we're gonna scale them up so that the buses or the cars that we've made in our previous, the cars that we've made in our previous tutorials can fit in on these roads. And you don't have to, every time when you're bringing in the buildings, commercial ones or the residential ones, which you've made already in the previous tutorials, don't want to waste time on building, texturing roads every time. It makes it simpler. Just import these tiles, just append these tiles in that scene, start constructing, and then we can fill in the gaps with those buildings. And even if you're done with the roads, it helps you to map out the city or the town that you're going for. Okay, now we're left with the T junction, which will connect these roads in a T or in an X junction. Of course, the junction where you won't be needing the road will just elongate the pavement to close it out and make it into a curve or only a straight and going at an angle. That's when we'll be making in the city. For now, let's just scale things down to fit in. Scale these down. I think I'm going to delete these. Of course, we can make it into other than the z-axis thickness and the x and the y, and make it look like a square from the top view. So that's 2 meters. Let's just change that into 2 as well, so it looks identical. Let's delete this one. We're only left with this, and now center of origin is in the right place. Let's just go for 1.99 to match the x-axis. Now this is going to be placed here. That means I'll have to increase the overall size of the road, or the tar part of the road. Yes, because that's gonna match it, and the cars are gonna be turning from that part. Yes, that's great. Now let's increase this. Let's go with the multiple of 199. We'll have to increase it on actually by twice, not just once. I'm using the same dimensions that we've increased the pavement, or they adjusted the pavement. It's reaching half of that square. Let's go to double. As well as in the y-axis. And now we're done. Great. Now I'm just gonna add in the mirror modifier, get this on each sides. Apply modifier. Great. Now this is going to be attached this way, and we're gonna create a buffer zone with the white lines on each side. Let's just highlight this. Let's duplicate it or separate it for now. Yes, that's the one. Delete this extra pair, delete this as well. Yes, we don't want any duplicates. Now let's scale this down as well once we place it. The origin has been changed or updated, something of this sort. Yep. To match the height of the cuboid. Let's bring it in on one side and add in 2 mirror modifiers, or a mirror modifier to each, so that the other side is automatically covered as well. That's done with one side, and now for the next. Perfect. And we are done with our first road tile asset. Now we're going to be going in for, this is only one lane, 2-directional road. Now we're going to be going in for 2-lane bi-directional road. I don't even know if that is a term, but let's just test the bus and it looks pretty much okay. I'm going to duplicate this, bring it on the other side. Let's start working on this road. Now this time we are going to need a straight line, which we will implement in the road to differentiate that. Let's see. Maybe let's do it this way, that the previous asset that we've made already, that's going to have 2 cars going in the same direction, and this one is going to have I just don't want to make a straight line in the previous asset. Let's think about it later. Let's build this one for now. So delete this phase if you can, or maybe you don't need to. Just want to duplicate this and mirror this on. Yeah, let's just try to separate it. Selecting the lower one there. Finally. Okay. We need to separate it and might not mirror it this time. Just gonna duplicate it and bring it on the other side so I can adjust it, because it's easier this way. There's a little bit of an overlap, so push it out. And going to push this on the other side so that 2-lane pattern can be noticed. So this is a 4-lane bi-directional road tile. Still thinking about how to adjust the previous one. Do I need a continuous line there, or do I just use the normal line pattern? We'll see once we come to the building our city tutorial. Okay, so that's going to be implemented here. We will not need a zebra crossing for this, I believe. I'm just going to delete this plate. Now for shall we make a zebra crossing? I think let's make a zebra crossing. Because anyways, there's going to be a signal even on these roads as well. Let's just separate this or delete this face. Select this edit mode. Select this with the L key. That basically selects the entire object. Because remember, we extruded it out. That means we just don't want to select the top face. We want to select the entire object with all the sides. So we click L to select that object. Just can duplicate this, bring it here. There's a shading issue that's going on, though. I think that might create problems from distant shots if we are going for our city. Close-ups will not have any issues, but let's go with the flow and see what happens. Of course, this is going to be doubled as well. This is going to be that junction where the road ends at the signal. Oh, that's too big. Let's reduce this. From the top view, let's scale it down. See, this is the thickness of the dimensions that'll match. Of course, the edges of the pavements will remain the same, but shall we just delete these off and bring in new ones? That's more easy. Just duplicate it and still we will need the pavements, and we need to increase the size again of our X crossing or T crossing, whatever this will be. To bring it out again, and just duplicate this, scale it down. Let's delete that face off. Of course, we could have just kept it, but because of the center of origin playing a part, it's easier to just work with one with the center of origin at the right place. Let's bring it up a bit. Now add in the mirror modifier once you're done with the scaling. Of course, we're locking in the Z axis by Control Z. I don't want the height of the road to change once I'm scaling it. That locks in the Z axis, but Y and X can be altered. Now let's add in the mirror modifier, all four sides. Same thing, let's select these, have to do it individually. Let's separate this and duplicate it. Change the center of origin, bring it into the center so that the scaling makes it easy, although it would have been convenient the way it was, but nevertheless. Just going to duplicate this. Somewhere here. Duplicate it once more. That's gonna go slightly out of, actually quite a bit offline. With the L key, Let's select either even the ones at the bottom of the pavement. Let's see, did we get those or not? Just go out of edit mode. If I move this around, oh wow, center of origin is that means we did it. Even the ones at the bottom of the pavement got deleted. Now, same thing, we're just gonna join these, Control J. Now we're gonna duplicate this, rotate it on the Z-axis by 90 degrees, and bring it on the right side of our plate. Adjust it a bit, and then adding in a mirror modifier. Then we'll be done with our second road palette plate patterns. Great. There we have our, so to say, highways of our city. The other ones are the smaller roads which will be going inside the city. Highways are going to be covering more or less the outskirts. That's how the basic plan that I have in mind. Let's apply all the scales because it helps in just Blender acts and behaves normally. Of course, they only need it for the scaling part. Okay. Now let's just bring this out and duplicate these and make our third road pattern. Let's select this. Again, bring it here. Select these, duplicate. Now we'll be going in for the 4 lanes mega highways, so to say. Not really sure whether these roads will we be using them inside the city. If we will, then only we need the zebra crossing, but I believe I'm going to keep it a signal free highway, even if it is going from within the city. So I'm going to delete these lines and bring in the line patterns. Let's adjust this. Now that's where I will need my painted lines to be. I'm just going to delete that face. That's pretty much the center. Let me just select it from here with the L key. Now we're going to duplicate this and bring it this position. And I'll only be, once I'm shading it, I will not shade the line itself. It's better just to delete it off. And now this is our signal free highway where we will probably not be needing the zebra crossing. I'm just going to delete the center plate. Just delete this one for now. And this is how it's going to be. Basically, we might have some vegetation in the middle. It's going to be going in both directions. For now, let's just work in on one plate because we don't have to duplicate it for now. We'll delete that off later on. We're done with this. That's our second road pattern, and this is going to be a third road pattern. Now we are going to be also needing overpasses as well as maybe we might go for underpasses, or we might not complicate our road, our city. So we might just go for bridges, maybe 2 types of bridges. Okay, now let's make those bridges. Considering that's our road, Or let's think of that's a road and duplicate this. Let's rotate this as if that's a road going in, and we are building a bridge from on top. It's gonna go in that direction. So rotate this. Let's see how can we add in the details. Let's add in the thickness. We'll definitely need thickness to this road, which is a bridge actually. Just select the faces from here. See circle select. Might have selected some extra faces. Let's see if we extrude this down, and I see this like pattern being selected. Yes, don't need any additional shapes here. Let's just undo this. Let's see if we can extrude. Okay, that's how I want it to be, straight. Let's just select it the conventional way and let's bring it down by extrude. I think that should be enough. Maybe a bit more. Just getting the idea from different angles. Okay, so now let's duplicate this and make it into something of a reinforcement. Metal bridges this time, not pavements, which can be used for pavements as well. Let's see. Let's add in the support or the stands on which the bridge is going to be placed. The support of the bridge. That's better. Bring it up. Maybe scale the thickness down a bit. It's too thick. Well, the height or the clearance, as to say, should be about 6 to 6.5 meters. That means we'll be bringing the bridge down. Remember, we'll be keeping things to scale as much as we can. For generally a truck lorry or a bus, buses are generally 3.5 to 4 meters of height. Of course, there are trailers that might go about 5 meters height, maybe. Therefore, generally 5.5 meters is the standard. I'm just going in for safety, 6.5 meters. Simple editing can really make these nice shapes. Really like low poly. I'm going to bring in this bridge down. Let's first, as if that's a road as an example that's going in and the bridge is going on top of it. On side view, just seeing the side view. I think it's well placed. And let's just, of course, we will not be able to apply the array modifier yet because there are too many objects selected. We need to join these and only then it will work out with the array modifier. The problem with that is all the patterns have been joined as well, but oh, I like that. We can even use a bridge with this concept. That's how it's going to be. Now the only thing is, since we've already done the road pattern, we might have to make the bridge on top of a single or our first road asset or the second one. Therefore, I'm not gonna fix the second leg of the bridge permanently for now. Let's see how it goes. Let's make in the top support of the bridge. Maybe we can use, of course, these bridges, I believe we can just go and use the standard thickness on the pavements rather than building these structures. We might be building in some islands on our city, so the smaller the island, we can use smaller bridges to connect the big cities with the little islands. If I just rotate this shape and make it look symmetrical, let me just go into edit mode, select this face, just move this backwards, that will look like a bridge structure. I think something of this, and duplicate this, rotate this in the z-axis by 180 degrees. Let's bring it back, something of this sort, maybe a bit more, and duplicate the pavement structure that we've made. Let's join these for now. But it looks definitely good, but I think I might be covering it from the top as well. So if I add in the array modifiers, the problem with that is I need to know the original bridge tile. How? Because I believe I might let me increase the spacing between these so that at one time only one of these edges of the bridge or the reinforcement of the bridge is placed. So that will have a one standard bridge tile with the array modifier just gonna multiply it. That's a single tile of the bridge. It's not matching up. Okay, so let's duplicate this part and bring it to the top. Do I need it exposed or do I cover it? I think I'm just going to cover this. Okay. Delete that part off. I will not be joining this to this tile because if I do, then on that side I'll be mirroring this on this axis only, because depending on what road is the bridge going to be placed on top, accordingly manually we'll be adjusting in those supports since we have different road thicknesses. Let's join some of the items. Might need to increase the length for now. Let's just place it here. Let's see if since we're using the same objects from the bottom, so once we apply the array modifier, which we'll do now, perfectly joined together. And that's how it'll look. Of course, right now in the edit mode we can only adjust the first or the original road tile, and accordingly these supports I'm gonna duplicate them, as if I join these and if I apply the array modifier, it will not do at times. So see, it's gonna come in center of the road. So I'm gonna parent this, but I'm gonna keep these separated. The L key, P, and separate them. These two with this. I'm gonna parent it to the object by Control P, of course. But the legs can be individually moved. Perfect. So that's the road pattern that we have made already. Of course, these ones will be deleting them. As well as the road at the bottom, we just need the bridge. Okay. Now we'll be building the bridge with four lanes. Of course, this is going to be maybe we might go for two big cities being joined together over water or sea, maybe. Let's see. That's why we will need these to be duplicated and just brought in this direction. Of course, we can have shading issues, I'm guessing, but let's see. Since their faces overlapping each other. Oh, we forgot to apply the scale. Let's apply the scale of these as well. For this, we might change the height to 12 meters, since we might be building some ships which will be going under the bridge. 12 meters, I think that should be good enough, because your ships height are generally less than that. You won't be going in for huge mega ships, or they will choose a different route to the ports as well. Since we're building in a city, why not just build everything? Let's place this one here. Let's bring the bridge up to match the height. Now for this one, we can join these because this will be on top of water, this bridge actually, so we can just join these and make it into a single bridge asset. If we apply the array modifier, it doesn't matter. Oh yes, we will be doing it in this way for bidirectional. Now we'll only be coloring or shading in the individual lanes, not the continuous one. I think, should we leave a gap between the two, or do we keep them joined or separate? Let's see. Because if we join them, then we'll need a stronger support in the center, or double support. Does it double support? I think that doesn't look that good. I'm gonna probably delete one off and increase the foundation of the one. Let's apply that. Let's keep it joined. Now select these by L key as their individual objects. Select this one, place it, bring it up more in the center, increase the thickness by scale, something of this sort. Yep. I think I'll do it that way. We might also be adding in a train track, but let's see how it goes. Let's bring in our bus, rotate this z-axis by 90 degrees, and going to edit mode. That's how the buses are going to move. This thing taking longer than expected. They're just roads, but this will help us a lot in the future tutorials, where once we create more assets for our low poly city. Roads are, I believe, one of the first things which we need to be which needs to be implemented, and then the entire map could be generated and you will know which of the objects will be placed where. Well, you get the rough idea. So now I believe we're done with our road assets with 2 variations of bridges, and now we'll be doing the shading part, which is still left. I'm thinking, I think I'm gonna make some changes, because since this is a bigger bridge, I'll make some alterations here. Let's see, should we just bring it up? That does not look that good. Let's move this forward. How does that look? Of course, going out will not actually help us if we are going to be using the array modifier, because it's going to start from the end point of the last piece of the part of that bridge. So, see what I mean? So that pattern won't do, and it doesn't look good even. Let's just separate them and delete them off. How does that look? No, it looks looks like one of those pattern games. Just stack up those cups or cards. Yeah, just delete that off. I'm just gonna maybe scale these up a bit. Let's select these and bring them up. I'm gonna select these individual faces. Let's zoom in, select the faces of these, zoom in again. I'm gonna extrude these straight upwards. Does that? No, let's just extrude it. Let's just check for the placings, and I think that looks much better. Let's add in an array modifier, and splendid. Yep, I think that'll do. And now we have our road and bridge assets ready. Let's see now. Now we will need the ramps, which will actually be connecting our bridges to the roads. So that's going to be the bridge, and this is going to be the ramp, or oops, not individual origins. Okay, because that's the road pattern being followed on top of the bridge. Oops, sorry about that. That's my phone ringing. And now, as you can see, we are just going to add in those road patterns, but at an angle. Of course, we're not going to make it too steep, so accordingly we might add 2 or 3 of those road tiles that we've already modeled. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, we will not be using only one, which will make it really steep. I think 3 would be a lot, maybe. Let's try to work it out with 2 of these. Let's try to adjust it. Of course, it's gonna have some offset, but it's not a problem since we are going to be probably not going in for a really close-up shot. Now with 2, of course, I scale these. I will apply another road, and at that angle, just rotating it ever so slightly might bring it down a little bit. And now I'm gonna move the road which is level on the horizontal plane. I'll adjust it and move it to the back so that it can fix it. And let's just make some little alterations or adjustments, as I might say. Slightly still raised, but I think we can get away with such minor issues. And here we have it, our ramp. Of course, we've added in the array modifier, which we are going to deactivate or remove. I think that's acceptable enough. I might add in some additional support on these sides so that it gives in matches it a little bit on the bridge. Should we keep it the same, or of course it's gonna go in the ground from the bottom side, but you can make little adjustments. Just rotate this, bring it up a bit, something of this sort. Make minor adjustments. Of course, it's your design. You can either go with straight lines or you can go with curved or tilted ones. I'm gonna go for this look. Of course, I could have just cropped that part out, but just to show you that at times little details can actually take can be a bit of a work. Should have just kept it straight, but nevertheless, let's go in the edit mode. Is that helping? No, I think I'm changing the one at the bottom actually. I'll have to. What I was actually trying to do is scale these faces, which I actually didn't select the right ones. Now I have. I'm going to scale these down Z so that they are narrow enough, and now I'm going to maybe move it down a bit, something of this sort. Yep, I'm happy with this look. Yes. Now I believe we are making our, hopefully, the last bridge curved or angled ramp. Of course, this is going to be the bridge, which for now I'm thinking I'm going to be making it on top of water. Let's make some adjustments here. I don't want to keep these look because I've already added in the additional bridge on the other side, so I'm going to make it in a way where I'm going to duplicate these lines.
I don't need to select the other side. I can just unselect it. I just need it on one side, and duplicate this, bring it to the center, and make it into as if the 4-lane or the 8-lane bidirectional road is going to be getting attached to these bridges, or to this specific bridge. Might be connecting to big cities or maybe islands. Not really sure what I'm gonna go for, but we have those as well. Still thinking maybe we'll keep this as it is. Might remove some lanes and make them into maybe train tracks. I'm not really sure. Still not sure. So we have this. Now it's pretty straightforward. We already made the ramp. We're just gonna duplicate this, bring it on the other side, and of course add in the additional lanes, and just delete the center single or solid line, as I might say. Of course there's going to be height difference, but I'm going to make sure that the bridge, the starting point, is slightly lower, or it matches the height of this, because I don't want to alter the height or add in another. Well, I could actually add in another road plate, and maybe that'll adjust the height, but for now I'm just gonna go with the same height. Of course I'm gonna adjust it once I'm attaching the bridge in the final project of ours, which is our low poly city. Just adjusting it, of course, to match the lanes of the bridge. The second bridge, actually. The third. I could have gone for the very initial stage. I could have just made in a lane in the center, as well as if a multi-purpose road. I could have just shaded it the way I wanted, but it's okay. I think now we should start shading our road, basically giving it the texture that I want. I'm not going to be using the Blender Kit add-on textures, because that's really gonna make my models heavy to load, as it might take more time once I'm rendering it out. Because if I use plain colors in the shade, it'll take much less of the memory while processing, and of course while rendering out the final scene. And it turns out that if you just use the plain color, the roads look pretty decent as well. Now what I'm doing is I'm building or modeling a street light. Now we're just gonna keep it to 10 meters of, it ranges between 10 to 15 meters even at times. This is going to be the base. Slightly, it's a little too tall, but let's just model it the same way. Now this one, I'm going to use it as a reference. I'm going to bring it up to 10 meters or 12 meters, whatever height you want to go for. Now I'm going to match this, extrude and scale inwards to get the upper part of our street light. Scaling it up, and then I'm going to add in a loop cut on this side, which is the top side actually, and extrude out the face, and scale it up, seal it down actually, so that it looks a bit narrow on the Z-axis. extrude, extrude, and then scale for the overall look. And then I'm going to extrude additionally in the y-axis. I'm going to extrude it out, and I'm going to select this face. I'm going to, before I do the inset, let me apply the scale as well, or I think it worked pretty decent without applying the scale. Now these street lights, I'm going to first I'm going to mirror it on the other side, and then I'm going to add these on each road tile asset. Oh, that looks nice as well. Bi-directional street lights. So now I'm going to be going in with this look. I'm going to duplicate this, bring it on the highway as well, and this time I'm going to select only one. Let's just get it up here. So for the smaller roads, I'll only need to be selecting this one, which is by L, and then duplicate. Then I'm going to separate this from these, and now it's an independent or a separate object. Now I'm going to duplicate this, or better off just mirror it on the other side. I'm going to select the mirror object. I think I'm going to be using it in the bi-directional look for the bridges though, although it's overlapping in the mesh. Might do some alterations there. For now, let's just mirror it on the other side, add in the modifiers, and duplicate this for this part. Of course, we're gonna copy these and bring it up on the ramp part of the road as well. Still, we left with the texturing. Goodness, this video is getting long. Wasn't expecting it to be this long. Thought it's going to be a simple one since we're only making roads, but apparently it is taking time. Nevertheless, let's bring in the street light on the bridge. Great, I don't have to actually adjust the height of the street light. Will definitely need to do that for the smaller bridges. Do I need it to be in the center? Let's see. Or do I bring it all the way? I think I'm going to bring it all the way here, and I'm going to make it double-headed street light. For that, I'm not going to duplicate this. I'm actually going to only select the light part. Into the edit mode, I'm going to select all these faces by circle select. That's with the C on your keyboard, making sure that I don't miss out any of the face. See, missed this. Now there might be another one. Let's see. Are we missing anything? What I'm planning is I'm going to select these faces, and now I'm going to separate them and make it into a separate object. Just double checking whether I haven't by mistake duplicated anything. Oh, you see I missed out one. I missed one face. I'm going to separate this and I'm going to join these two together so it becomes one object. Now I'm going to mirror it with the reference to the pole, and it's mirrored. Perfect. Great. Now when I'll be adding in the array modifier, it's going to multiply itself, I think I'm only going to keep it in the center. Don't want it to be on either sides. Let's just add in here as well. Might bring it up a bit because it's going in. Scale it, with the G pressed. Bring it up in the Z axis, and now let's do it for the smaller bridges as well. Of course, we'll need the height adjustments. Let's see, should we go for the similar shape or the same shape, or do we make some adjustments, or do we make something totally different? Let's see what suits better. Of course, we'll be adding in these two. Actually, they're the same. Let's bring in these bridges. Let's go for the ramp for now. Or shall we go for the bridge? I think we're gonna go for the bridge. Let's separate it. Select this, bring it all the way here. Let's bring it up with the Z axis. Let's see if this height, can we manage with this height? Let's bring it to the side. Or if we select these faces, not the top one. Let's see, how does that look if it's extended even on the top of the support of the bridge? No, it doesn't look that good. Let's just reduce the height, bring it all the way down under the support, the railing of the bridge. Oh, that won't do, it's making it look funny. Don't want it to change its proportions on the top, only in the bottom. I'm going to reduce it by selecting the face, not this way. I believe I'm only going to be selecting in the face at the bottom. I can't see it from here. Yep, select that face, bring it down. Like that's a little too much, but let's see. Let's bring it down, setting the origin point to be the center. Which I might just change the origin point to this face actually. Cursor to selected. And now add in the origin to the 3D cursor, and now it's where I want the origin point to be, right at the base. Somewhere about here, still standing tall. Let's just select all of this by circle select. Don't forget to miss any of the faces. Remember the ones inside as well. We missed it last time. I think we got it this time. Now we're just going to bring a G, and oops, the face at the base is still selected. Need to unselect this, and you see there, the face at the base. Selecting these again with the circle select. Remember not to skip any of the faces. Inside there. I think we got all of the faces. Now G, and bring it down to the Z axis. Something of this sort. I think that's acceptable. Do we need to make it double-headed, or let's just make it single? In the x-axis, not in the y. Of course, it changes according to your axis, how you modeled it. It might be in the other axis for you. Now we're getting to the shading phase, I believe. We're done. Some additional adjustments we might make during the final scene creation of ours. Let's add in the street lights for our tilted road asset. Let's just duplicate this, bring it up. I'm gonna keep it to this. I'm not gonna rotate this. Just gonna bring it up the z-axis, duplicate this again, bring it up in the z-axis, not rotating this as well. Somewhere about here. That's how it's supposed to be, not tilted, of course. I'm going to duplicate this and I'm just going to bring it here since it's the identical ramp. Just bring it back somewhere here, and the heights have already been adjusted. Great. Now let's see the shading part, which I'm actually really looking forward to, as that's where you can actually see how your final assets will look, or what it will look like. Although I'm a bit concerned of the shading issues that might happen. Let's see, let's start with, you know what, let's make in the parking lots. We might need 2 or 3 different variations, something that we can maybe store in the commercial areas. 2 variations, one to be of a squarish shape, the other one to be a rectangular one. Of course, we can duplicate these, and depending on where these parking lots are going to be, we might cover more or less area. Let's model a basic car. I think it's about 2 meters to height will be about 3.5 meters, or let's say we bring it up to 4.5, something like maybe a Mercedes G-Wagon. 4 meters of length. Now let's bring in the pavement. Let's leave some space for the row of cars to drive in and out. Let's rotate this in the z-axis. This should maybe move the pavements down a bit so that 2 cars can easily come in and go out at the same time. Let's scale these, let's place these for now. Now let's scale them up. Maybe making in horizontal parking lot, or we're drawing the lanes accordingly. Let's bring this up and scale it down. Of course, we can even make a simple cuboid, place one of these on the very top and make it look like a car park building, as to say, if it's a really congested area that we are working with. This is maybe too close, but that's the pattern I'm going to be going for the parking lot. That's where I'm going to be making in marking those lines, designating the parking spaces. And for the second parking lot, I'm going to be keeping it fairly square. I think I might just keep the entrance to be from the main side, or just one side. I think the squarish shape will look better off if we are going for a parking building. Let's add in those pavements. Let's close by this. I think it's a perfect square. Scale these down on this side. I think that's good enough. Do we need to increase the size of the pavement? Let's see, doing the shading. Now let's duplicate this, bring it here as well, and let's decide how do we want the arrangements of the parking spaces to be. Do we prefer it this way, or do we rotate this on the other side? Make it the vertical lines. Let's see. Of course, it's totally up to your choice, but we have to keep in mind that we need to leave some space for cars to drive around, as well as get in the parking lot slots. That might be too congested. I need more space, so might rotate this. I'll just delete these off for now. I'm gonna select those three later on, and I'm gonna rotate them probably. Let's combine these, or delete these as well, or do we? Let's just use this one, and let's make those parking stones that are placed on the pavement, on the end of the parking slots. The stone, the concrete one that comes in on this side. Of course, I can add in the array modifier, which is more convenient and more symmetrical. I just increase the size of that stone though, because it's too narrow. Increase it in the y-axis. Let's bring this down. Now scale this in the y. A bit more than the thickness of the car. Let's add in the array modifier with the factor offset. Maybe more. For me, I think minus 1.2 works better. Of course, you might be choosing a different value depending on the size of the parking lot that you're going for. I've mirrored this on the other side. So far, so good. Just missing those lines, which will actually helps drivers to park the car in the right position or right place. Now let's work with these. Since I have a rough idea of the thickness, I might just delete these off. Wireframes, select them all, delete the faces. I'm left with one. Now I can adjust it, the solid view. Let's bring this up. Let's change the pattern. Might need to delete one parking space because it's not fitting in. Again with the wireframe, 3 for face select, back to, let's delete that face, and we're back to solid mode. Somewhere about here. I'm going to keep it into 2 directional. So bring it, this is 1 car space. Will that be enough? Let's bring in this car. Let's duplicate this and bring it to that side. Rotate this in the Z. 90 degrees. Now we'll need to move this somewhere about here. That's where the second lane of the car park is supposed to be. And of course we'll be deleting in one or two of those stones. Two will be better. Delete those faces, back to solid view. That's going to be the path for the cars to follow in. And this I'm going to bring it all the way to the end probably. Let's see. Yep. Has to come all the way here, but of course I'm going to add in a pavement on the end with the opening, of course. So might need to increase the size of the road, which is actually the bottom part. Let's duplicate this, bring it here, let's scale it down. We still haven't even reached the shading part or the texturing part of our road. Of course I am trying to show you each and every step in order for not to discourage any of the new 3D artists out there. It's a time-taking process, time-consuming process. Might just cover that side of the pavement. Cars drive in. Let me bring this. I think I don't need to change the size. We managed with it. This one we'll have to change the size. Let's bring this up. Maybe I might delete it from the other side, that it's mirrored. Let's adjust it to the right. Delete this off, add in a mirror modifier, bring it on the other side, mirror this as well, and great. I just move in these parking spaces inside a bit. Let's see. Let's have a look on from different sides. I'm drawing in those lines that I've been talking about. I just use the same ones. Wireframe, select all of these, delete the face. Now with this I'm going to use to draw in those parking lanes. Scale this, the X, reduce it in size because it's supposed to be something very thin, and of course increase it in the Y-axis somewhere about here. Also supposed to have that thickness. Scale it down to Z. Let's kind of see it from the side angle due to it being really thin. There. This is definitely going to create issues once I'm shading it. I'm not really sure whether I'll be going in for a really close-up shot. Let's just join these, mirror this, or let's duplicate this. We don't want to mirror this for now. Adjust it better manually. Let's duplicate this, bring it down as well. And of course for the top part we'll have to add in 2 additional parking lanes, or 3 actually. Let's go into edit mode. Let's duplicate this, And wireframe, let's select the unwanted ones. Actually, I could have just adjusted it by this deleting one and adjusting one, but nevertheless I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to delete all of the left lane, circle select, delete the face, back to solid view, and we have our parking lot. The first one we still didn't make those lanes, we're just going to bring in. I just need only one, and we can just add in the array modifier. Let's rotate this z-axis by 90 degrees. Turns out, since it's the same what we're using the other parking lot, therefore the thickness is of the right size. Shall we? Let's just duplicate this. Yep, we will not be needing it for the last one. Of course you could go for it, but I'm not gonna do it. Let's join these and let's duplicate this and bring it here. Perfect. Something of this sort. Of course we will be doing in some vegetation as well, because I love the green touch. It really upgrades the place and it's soothing to the eye as well, adding in the vegetation. Now let's start with the shading. Bring it all the way down. You see it's already giving us that shading look, even with not far off angle shot. Let's see, from here it looks perfectly fine. It's little glitches. It's actually not supposed to do that, but because of the mesh is really thin, let's do the pavement's slight grayish tone. Looks really nice though. Wait till you see the road with the other lanes. It's gonna look even more beautiful. Of course the lanes, it's just adding in a material. It's going to stay white. Let's go on for the road. That's for the pavement. That's the road. That's for looking great so far. Of course, it's best to name the material once so that you can easily just copy it for the other objects. Speeds up the workflow. Of course, that's an identical one. We could have just deleted that off. You see, we are looking at some shading issues which we can get rid of at times, but now it's really starting to annoy me. You see, in distant shot it's going to look that way. Maybe not when we're rendering it out, but I'm not going to risk it going in with these shading. I'm probably have to go in and into the edit mode. I will be making in additional loop cuts, so because that is not going to give me this shading issue. Just gonna do this for now. Maybe I'm gonna do the bridge as well. I want to see how it looks with the materials applied. Of course, for the bridge, let's go in for a grayish tone initially. That's how I want the support and the railing to look like. These I'm going to select, add in a new material, go all the way down, and I'm going to assign it. Nice, it looks really good. And now I'm going to fix that shading issue. I'm not gonna, by skipping these parts, I'm just gonna shade this bridge as well. But since, in order to get rid of the issue that I'm facing, I'm just gonna add in loop cuts. Let's skip the video from here. Now I'm just going to add in loop cuts. Of course, it's a simple process, but a lengthy one, just by adding in loop cuts by Control R and just following along where I've already made those lines, and of course deleting the extra ones, since we will be shading the object itself and the loop cuts that we add in. And accordingly, whether it's a 2-lane or a 4-lane, so we're just going to be adding in loop cuts. So just follow along. we are just on the verge of completion, working in on the last bridge or the ramp part of that bridge. You're just assigning in the road material since we already made the lines. Great. See, there is no shading issues anymore because we have not made any duplicate surfaces or faces on top. So congratulations for completing this tutorial. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Toodles.